Hey everyone, I'm recording Rissa and you are watching my St. Patrick's Day eye makeup fill beat tutorial with a Storytime Confessions voiceover. And so I'm going to be voicing over like some of the best confessions I found on Reddit, and just to, spice things up. So it's not just your average St. Patrick's Day. I love this shirt, by the way. And it's actually a skirt that I'm wearing. It's a shirt. But yeah, so this is the look I'm going for. A very light beat, but it has a little gold, a little green, and it looks pretty natural, I think, anyways. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and maybe even a subscribe. I really appreciate every view and I love you all. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. I'm 46 and I have two daughters, 17 and 15, and we have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, a 78-year-old grandpa and 80-year-old grandma. My ex passed away in an accident last year, and we've had some major family drama since due to his cheating and him leaving two boys born with his affair partner orphaned. She also died. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters and them also trying to live with us. The first one we're going to court over, and the second one will never happen. Where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it's my youngest's birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted, mostly chocolate and sweets. After an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying that some weird people have cornered her. I ran to find her with my oldest daughter and found 6 women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing time to spend with their grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphan baby brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out my ex cheating and the babies, so they're not fond of the kids, and it's trauma that they are both working on with a therapist. I got between the group and my daughter, telling the eldest to go pay for the stuff her sister had gotten and to go to the car. Then I turned to the women, some who I knew from when I went to my ex-in-law's church, and I turned and ripped them a new one. They told me I was worse for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. Blech. Eventually, the screaming turned too loud and we were all asked to leave the market. I met with my girls in the car. The women followed me like a group of vultures. I managed to get in the car and drove away. After my girls went to bed, I got online and talked to another member of that church that I'm on good terms with. I told him about what happened and he apologized. He told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's Facebook group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we're leaving them homeless and penniless. They inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance, and how my daughters don't even talk to them. She also accused us of being the reasons she lost her grandson. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie. And of course, they were getting all the love and support from the extremist members of their church. This church and its members are a bit annoying, especially on LGBTQ plus topics, but they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It's a big no-no, be it from a husband or wife equally. Now, how did she get around blaming me for the affair and the children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other one was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children. Then said I didn't want babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess since I was mid-divorce when my ex died. This was all the evidence I had needed. And since divorce wasn't completed, I didn't have any legal ramifications for releasing all the evidence. I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, and the ones where he confessed to his parents about cheating and getting support from them. My ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my coup de grace, all the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they called my daughters bastards and telling them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce. This one was literally 2 days after my ex died. I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful, high-quality paper. Then when I got home, I sat down for a few hours and made some really personalized binders. They looked like a little prayer songbook that they give out at church to sing the hymns. The first picture was, when you opened it up, was my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern, and the girl looks nothing like me. Different skin tones and hair color. Underneath, I wrote ex-husband's name and a fair girl's name's love story. I took them to the church service. There's a desk in the back where all the songbooks for people that forget or need one, and they never check them. The gossip mill was quick and harsh. The names of my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook. The names that my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook were so bad, the pastor himself had to get involved just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their abuse to my daughters, but what made me laugh was that I was still in the wrong for the divorce. But it's understandable that I failed in my duties after the shock, and I will possibly return to the light one day, unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They use another word that I can't use here, I imagine. I got 2 apology letters in the mail for my girls and an invitation to join the church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, they got shamed into leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore. She wished her great son was still alive and he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money, I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. That was a pretty wild one. So I'm going to just go on to the next one. That was just like mind-blowing, just because how could you accuse someone of getting a surrogate when you know darn well that your son cheated on her with a side piece? And that's nothing compared to surrogacy. That's so disrespectful to surrogates and to the wife who got cheated on. All right, so let's get into the next story. I'm so excited. This one's about an HOA president's long goodbye. When I moved into my suburban neighborhood, I expected peace and quiet. Instead, I walked into a petty dictatorship run by our HOA president, Todd. Todd was the worst kind of leader. The kind who loved power but hated accountability. He enforced ridiculous rules like fining people $200 for leaving their trash cans out a minute past 9 a.m., but blatantly ignored the rules when it suited him. His own yard was a mess of unpermitted structures, and his fence was taller than allowed by city ordinances. But Todd's true sin? Using the HOA as his personal piggy bank. At first, I tried reasoning him. My fence was a slightly off-color white because he didn't approve of the stain that was available, and he fined me $500. I explained, provided receipts, and asked for leniency. Todd smirked and said, "Rules are rules," and walked away. That's when I decided to take him down. Step 1, become the inside man. Todd's first mistake was underestimating me. I volunteered for the HOA board under the guise of wanting to get involved in the community. I played the part of the eager, naive newbie perfectly. For 2 years, I attended every meeting, quietly observing how Todd operated. I learned he controlled the board by bullying other members and burying them in paperwork. He'd push through the votes only when his allies were present and conveniently lose paperwork submitted by dissenting homeowners. I kept my head down, took detailed notes, and waited. My goal was to outlast his term as president so I could begin making changes. Step 2, follow the money. Todd loved to brag about how much he kept the HOA's finances in order, but something didn't add up. The annual HOA fees were high, much higher than in smaller neighborhoods, but the common areas were falling apart. The pool was closed half the summer due to maintenance issues, and the landscaping looked like it hadn't been touched in months. I started digging. As the HOA treasurer, Todd had access to all the accounts, but he was notoriously cagey about sharing financial details. I asked for the budget during a meeting, and Todd laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry, I've got it under control." I filed a formal request for the financial records, which under HOA rules he was required to provide. Weeks went by with no response. That's when I started talking to neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one suspicious. Over a dozen homeowners had requested access to the budget over the years, only to be ignored. One neighbor claimed Todd had used HOA funds to install a new patio in his house, while another sworn he'd seen Todd's kids at the community pool during its maintenance closure. Armed with these suspicions, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, forcing Todd to provide the records. He stalled, but I wasn't backing down. When he finally handed over the documents, they were a mess. Invoices were missing, payments were mislabeled, and some expenses were downright bizarre. A $15,000 landscaping fee paid to a company that didn't even exist. Thousands spent on administrative costs with no explanations. I cross-referenced the HOA's bank statements with public records and found the smoking gun. Todd was funneling the money into his personal accounts. I waited for the annual HOA meeting, which was typically a snooze fest, attended by only a handful of homeowners. But this time I made sure people showed up. I spent weeks on the doors, knocking on doors, explaining what Todd had been up to. Todd started the meeting like usual, droning on about how difficult it was to manage the HOA and how much he'd sacrificed for the community. That's when I stood up. I calmly asked if he could explain some of the discrepancies on the budget. Todd laughed nervously and said, "I don't think this is a time or a place." I said, "Actually, Todd, it's the perfect time." I handed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. The mood shifted instantly. People began reading, whispering, and then shouting. Todd tried to regain control, but it was too late. I called for the vote to remove him as president and treasurer. By the end of the night, Todd was out. After Todd was removed, we hired an independent auditor to go through the HOA's finances. They confirmed everything. Todd had embezzled over $50,000, mismanaged tens of thousands of more, and committed multiple accounts of fraud. We reported him to the police and filed a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds. But it didn't end there. Todd's shady contractor buddy was also exposed and banned from doing business in the county. Todd had to sell his house to pay restitution and legal fees. His name became a running joke in our neighborhood, and no one would touch him professionally. Every time I walk past Todd's old house, now owned by a lovely family, I smile. The pool is open, the landscaping is beautiful, and the HOA fees are lower than ever. Meanwhile, Todd has moved to a neighboring town, where he decided to try to join another HOA board, only to be laughed out the room when someone Googled his name. Justice wasn't just served, it was plated, garnished, and savored. Mwah. Well, that was a wild ride. Oh my goodness. So I don't know if you know what an HOA is, but basically for certain communities, there's a board, a group of people who come up with the rules and uphold the rules of the community. And not every neighborhood has these, but that's basically this guy was their president and was just running amok with the money. It was a hot mess of a situation. I really love this revenge story just because it took a long time. This person waited 2 whole years, which is pretty wild to me. But revenge is best served with a lot of plotting and a lot of planning. So maybe it just takes time to get your revenge. If you ever want to get revenge on someone, keep that in mind. It might not happen instantly. All right, I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. This is my final look. I hope you all have a happy St. Patrick's Day. Luck of the Irish be with you. I love you so much. Please give this a like and subscribe. Bye.